You know, we were elected by the people. That's what the treaty says. But we should not forget that we are elected here for the people. We should have the best interests of people in mind, because that is the reason why they elected us here in the European Parliament. All these leaders of the European Parliament, they like to praise themselves every time when they go in a press conference to say that this is the most democratic institution of the European Union. The question to them is really so? Have you told these people in the Parliament, when you decided to strip their fundamental rights, why you have done it? You see, we have all these treaties, as my colleague said, that no medical treatment should be imposed on you unless you decide about it freely and under informed consent. Now, clearly what they do right now to condition the access in the Parliament to have this green certificate is violating this freedom of people to choose what do they want to be vaccinated with or tested with. But there's the other aspect. And the question that I address not only to you in the Parliament, but to every European citizen, to ask your own government, were you properly informed about what is going on? Because we had a lot of debates at the beginning of this year in the Parliament where we demanded full access to the contracts signed between these companies that produce the vaccines and the European Union. And I quote from an article in Euroactive, who says the following in an article from January 22nd, 2021, that says the following. The contract signed between pharmaceutical company and the European Commission in November of 2020 was made available to MAPS on Tuesday in a redacted format after the company agreed to open the contract up to scrutiny. Say what? Say what? So you're imposing a medical product on the European citizens without them knowing what's in these contracts? Not only them knowing, but us, we don't know. So after a lot of pressure in the Parliament, as the article says, these contracts were disclosed to us and to the public. And I want to show you some of those pages. And you tell me if this is okay for the European citizens to be exposed to this situation where they cannot come to work, they cannot enter a store, they cannot go with their kids to schools, where they cannot freely move from one country to another, unless in one situation is vaccinated with one of these products. So these are the contracts that were disclosed by the Commission with the approval of the company. This is unheard of. And I will just show you the pages. These are the pages. You see?
They call this transparency these days.
So this is the fundamental principle, right, of democracy. I'm asking you guys, is this transparency? Do you see anything? Because we don't. European citizens' money have been given by Ursula von der Leyen to these companies. What happened with those money? What are they? Why are they open with the people and fully transparent so we all know what is going on? The difference between tyranny and democracy is very simple. When the government knows everything about you, that's tyranny. I know how it is to live in tyranny. When you know everything about your government, that's democracy. So this is where we are right now, praising this institution. It's the most democratic institution in the European Union. And even us as MEPs, as directly elected by the people, for the people, we haven't been able to see in these contracts. So as we said last week, we are here for you, and we will fight for you. I know many of you are struggling all across Europe, and many of you working for the European institutions are struggling right now. But look, as a former US president said, freedom, liberty is one generation away from extinction. We live that type of time right now. And it's our duty and our call to fight for liberty. Thank you.
My name is Herman Kelly. I'm press officer for today. I would ask any journalists here, and only journalists please, because it is a press conference, to put up your hands. Tell me your name, your media organisation, and I'll take a question. So any journalists present here, can you please put up your hand? Your good self, please.
Hello, Alfonso Bianchi, Europa Today, Italy. It's clear that the debate around green passes all over Europe, okay, and it's clear that you don't want it. Do you have an idea, an alternative that you want to propose, or do you think we just should do like nothing is happening and live our life normally? And regarding the obligation of vaccination, green pass is also about getting tested. You don't have to be vaccinated, you can get tested. Especially in the European Parliament, you got the privilege to have free tests, something that other people don't. Don't you think would be an alternative for you, just taking a test? Thank you.
Ms. Donata?
Yes. Thank you. Well, the fact is that it's not true that all over Europe we have COVID certificates demanded for exercising our freedom. The COVID certificate was introduced by this parliament just to favor the free circulations among between member states in the moment when the borders were closed because of the pandemic spread. And that's the reason why the Parliament voted for that measure, with the guarantee of not allowing any discrimination between citizens, and especially for non-vaccinated citizens. What we're seeing today is an abuse of that certificate, a distortion of its purpose, and the alternative is just leaving people free to exercise their rights to free circulation, the right to work, the right to live a full and completely life in dignity. Because tests are too a medical treatment, and we cannot be forced even to have tests each 48 hours, because imposing tests only to not vaccinated people is just the discrimination, because it introduces a sort of presumption, absolute presumption of being infective for people who are not vaccinated, which is totally unfounded on the scientific point of view, because unvaccinated people very often are immune to COVID for recovery, or in any case are healthy, perfectly healthy people. And the risk of being infective is not related to being vaccinated or not. So there is no legal or scientific basis for this measure.
Thank you very much. Can I have any other journalists here with questions, please? Well, can I ask online, the journalists online there from ANSA, if they'd like to raise their hand and to ask a question?
Yes, I see that there's a question from Laura Zornoza. I'm going to read the question out. I was wondering if the speakers are planning any action against the European Parliament, or what are the next steps for this group. We had already 2 press conferences, and I would say this is just the beginning of what is coming. And as we said today, we will use all the democratic tools available to fight for everybody's rights. Nevertheless, we should not ever forget that we are supposed to live in a European Union where freedom, where liberty should be considered fundamental and inalienable rights. Nobody should negotiate on our freedoms. And we are at a point right now where even in this House, in the European Parliament, a small group of people decided unilaterally that us as mayors, our assistants, and the employees of the Parliament, many of them have been working for these institutions, for decades. But sadly, many of them have medical conditions. And I want to read what someone working for the Parliament sent me. And I think many Europeans can feel the pain of this person. The person wrote to us and said, I write to you because I have been recognized a serious neurodegenerative illness. For this, I have avoided to be vaccinated. I don't wish my illness to get worse and to lose my fragile health balance I have hardly achieved so far. According to the communication of the Secretary General of the European Parliament that was sent out yesterday, I should be tested once or twice a week with all the consequences linked to the stress. Have they thought about the fact that people like me, willing to work, being active, are discouraged and will get exhausted considering the complications of a green pass? We pass all these resolutions in the plenary where we all acknowledge the rights of people who are sick, who have different disabilities. Many of them are working for this House. They want to serve the citizens. So with what was imposed yesterday here, it's affecting their basic fundamental right. So to restate what I said, we will do everything it takes to fight for freedom and liberty of every European citizen.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask Pietro from ANSA, the Italian agency. You've got your hand up. If you can try to get your mic working there, we'll be pleased to hear your dulcet tones. So just try that mic. Can you press the speak button and don't be shy.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Very quick question. You've been talking about staff from the European Parliament, and I was wondering if you have direct contact with any of the organization or the union, and if you have a figure of people that might be affected by this decision.
I can answer quickly, yes. We were contacted by many of the staff unions, and there are many discussions among the staff members, and we will see how this will go forward. But I have to tell you, people are deeply concerned. Healthy or people that have certain health issues, they are all concerned because this mandate, the conditioning of their fundamental right to work, they realize, okay, we accept this now, but where is this going to stop? What are they going to impose on us next? We just received a message for someone who said that even grandparents and parents will not be able to bring their kids to a kindergarten that we have here close to us unless they have a green certificate. So even under the Belgian law, these rules are not applied, and for some reason or another, the European Parliament wants to give an example on how to be a totalitarian institution to its employees. So, exactly.
Very good. Are there any other journalists present here? So any other questions online, please? Okay. I think, thank you very much to everybody for coming. Just a last comment from Ms.
I would have liked
Anderson.
to comment also on the question of the Italian colleague. You were posing the question whether that testing is no problem. We could do this. I would strongly object to your notion because surely you must recognize that testing unvaccinated people is merely a way of putting so much pressure on unvaccinated person so they will finally get the vaccination. There is no point and no sense in that since, like I pointed out, even vaccinated people will be infectious. So if you're really concerned about stopping the spread of this virus, then you need to test all people, period. That's why tests are unacceptable. Thank you.
Sorry, any other questions? Well, it's only for journalists, please. So I'm sorry about that. So there's nobody else online, and I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, for all the journalists who came on, and to our brave MEPs who have made a stand, who want to be free people in a free country. Thank you very much, everybody, and safe home.